thank you guys for joining me. I'm really excited about this, to be sharing this World Cafe and talking with direct support professionals about your industry and learning a little bit more about you. I thought we'd start off sort of with a personal reflection on this one. So can you share maybe a specific incident with a family or with a kiddo, either in classroom or in home?
I remember there was one time I was working with a kiddo that at his school, and he was a kid that just loved flags. He didn't know much about it, but he just loved looking at flags.
Okay.
So we just started expanding on him, showing different flags from different countries. And we were in a room, there was just a bunch of flags, and I was just looking up at one. I was like, "What is that?" He's like, "Oh, it's the Bolivian flag." And I was just like,
yeah, it is.
I just remember I just pulled it on my phone. I was like, "Yeah, it is the Bolivian." And I was just like, "Oh, that was just an amazing thing." Now he taught me something, so.
And I think for me too, kind of going off of that, how you said, "Oh, he taught me something." I feel like every time I go into a home, I learn something from my kids just as much as they're learning from me, right? So, you know, I can think of one particular client that I had, and she was so intelligent, and you know, we want to use her strengths. She had so many skills, and for the longest time we were trying to push the vocal piece, right? We want you to be able to vocalize with us. We want you to be able to use your words to request desired items or whatever it might be. And you know, at the end of the day, one day she's just sign languaging all these words. She is signing the word banana, but just by looking at it on a piece of paper, and now we can communicate. Not only did she learn how to communicate through sign language, I learned how to communicate through sign language, Mom learned how to communicate through sign language.
Well, thank you. There's some great information on this. Kayla, would you be willing to come over here so I can share this with you? Thank you, my dear. This next one kind of speaks to community. Any challenges that you might come up against with making sure that DSPs and families are sort of on the same page? You're both working with the same kiddo on a regular basis, either with the families or in separate locations. What are some of the consistency challenges that you run into, and how do you overcome those?
Well, I think when we walk in, sometimes the families are confused on how to get their children to do stuff or be part of the community, or some people don't want to leave their house with the children because they've had very bad experiences.
Yeah.
I'm going to give you an example. One of my little kids likes Slurpees. And so,
who doesn't like Slurpees?
And so he wants to go out and get a Slurpee, but Mom says, I don't dare take him in there because if the color he wants is not working, he's going to have a fit. How am I going to get him back in the car, and we can't get it? And so then I said, I will walk in with him. So I talked to him and told him, hey, if the red one's not working, what about blue? Do you like the blue? And he's like, yes. And so we worked, you know, saying, okay, so if the red doesn't work, no crying, because we're going to be able to get the blue, and we'll walk out with a Slurpee.
Right.
And if the blue and the red don't work, there's always a brown one. And he's like, okay. So then Mom said she went with him, and she says, remember what Mireya said? Remember, we're going to look for what color's working. And so she said the cherry was out. And they got the blue.
And all was well.
And she goes, I can't believe we were able to get him to understand that.
And that's it's like, I mean, so many things are happening in that one story.
Yeah.
You're overcoming the obstacle, both of the parents who are afraid to do something new with their child for fear, right? And also overcoming sort of a child being stuck in sort of one goal, sort of broadening their options. So it's addressing multiple things at once. That's wonderful. Micah, may I ask you to come over here and grab this for me? Thank you so much. Can you bring it to the other table? Thank you. Well, thank you so much for this. This was super helpful and interesting conversation. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Enjoy.